Would you do larger cuts, corporate cuts?
Yeah, I was planning on doing it. In fact, had the result been different, the result was just fine, by the way. You'll probably cut that out, but that's okay. But
he was talking about doing more tax cuts for the rich and corporations. But every once in a while, Donald Trump slips up and admits that he lost the last election. And that aside about how they'll probably cut that part out was a request for them to cut that part out. But more on the tax cuts and who he's focused on giving them to.
Because you are all people that have a lot of money. I know 20 of you, and you're rich as hell. We're going to give you tax cuts. We're going to pay off our debt.
He kept his promises the first time he was in office, and despite how unpopular they were, the important people with the most money were happy with his tax cuts. So like nearly everything else with this do-over campaign, he's just running it back.
In 2017, he signed a $1.5 trillion tax cut bill, largely for the rich and corporations. It was hands down the least popular piece of legislation he ever signed, and his most important. A plan that gave lots of breaks to the rich, to corporations, and didn't stimulate the economy. It also, and people forget this, it gave Trump his lowest approval rating until the Capitol insurrection.
Politicians almost regularly dive into policies that end up being unpopular, but they usually try to pivot, backpedal, or simply dodge questions about their missteps, like Republicans have been doing regarding abortion rights lately. But when it comes to Republicans' main principle of giving tax cuts to disproportionately benefit the richest in the country, they'll accept the temporary unpopularity from the common folk. It's why they loudly feed them red meat like wokeness, transphobia, Hunter Biden, and lies about a two-tier justice system, while quietly promising to hand more money to the 1%.
The U.S. collects less in corporate tax revenues as a share of GDP than virtually any other advanced economy. How does that disparity in corporate taxation under the Trump tax law contribute to increased wealth inequality here in the United States?
Yes, the corporate tax is a very progressive tax, and if you compare it to our other ways of raising revenue, like labor income taxes, the payroll tax, it's by far the most progressive major contributor to our tax system. So when they cut that corporate tax so dramatically in the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, it exacerbated the amount of income inequality in the United States. 80% of the benefit of those corporate tax cuts went to the top 10% of the population.
That disparity was obviously by design, and the proposed way that Trump's tax cuts were meant to benefit the middle class and workers was for that same trickle-down effect to happen that we've been hearing about for decades. They never change it. It's exposed every time there's a new tax cut for the rich.
Mr. Chairman, with your indulgence, I'd just like to ask every member of the panel a yes-no question. I've been doing this in a lot of these hearings. This discussion already came up, but because of the hype that was presented at the time of the Trump tax cuts, claiming that they would pay for themselves, I just ask everybody, especially our economists, whether, in fact, the Trump tax cuts pay for themselves. Let's just start with Dr. Clausen and just go down the line.
They did not.
Yeah.
Does not appear so.
They did not.
No, they did not.
It's not something I'm qualified to speak to.